3D glasses included. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
They weren't. That was a goddamn lie.
There was I could not find a tagline at all, but every single poster was like 3D glasses included.
Unbelievable.
Okay. First of all,
what happened in this movie that's worthy of 3D?
Like two things.
So, yeah, there's like one scene in particular, but then, so that's what I was asking myself as I was watching it. And then I was like, is that why some of the backgrounds look really weird? Like, we'll get there, but like the crematorium obviously was like a CGI background. And then there's like other really weird instances where it just looks so bizarre. And I was like, why does this look so weird when other parts of the movie look so normal? And I was like, oh, because these are the 3D parts. There's not that many. And also, I almost watched the wrong movie like 5 times. There's like another movie called Night of the Living Dead 3D Resurrection or something, and that's the one that I almost watched.
What?
Oh, God.
Yeah, hold on, I was really confused.
Find that, and I'll do our actual intro since we're just going to talk for like 10 minutes before I do it. This is episode 57 of I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm Kit.
I'm Katie.
And this week we watched 2012's Night of the Living Dead 3D reanimation for some reason.
Part 2. Unlimited.
Okay. Here's my confusion.
Yeah, what did you
It is called Night of the Living Dead Resurrection, but on the poster for it, on whatever streaming service, it says 3D on it. And it's got, I'm so confused. It's Night of the Living Dead, yeah. So, I don't know. There's literally like 20 Night of the Living Deads on Tubi and on all those streaming sites, so.
There are a lot of them because it's a movie that is in the public domain, so basically anybody could do anything they want with it.
Here's my, please stop.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I hit play, and even if it was the wrong movie, I was not going to stop. I was only going to watch one shitty Night of the Living Dead.
I watched it twice.
I don't know how. Oh, here's another tagline. The beginning of the end. Shot in 3D.
Good lord. This Night of the Living Dead Resurrection movie looks somehow worse than what we just watched.
It's legitimately stunning.
At least the one we watched had Jeffrey Combs and whatever the one dude's name is, Andrew Divoff. This one has nobody, and the poster looks extremely Netflix horror movie nonsense.
Hell yeah. Like all of the Day of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead remakes and sequels and prequels that they've done.
The quick bio on IMDb for the Resurrection one is: the deceased have risen with the instinct to feed on the living as a family is trapped during the zombie apocalypse. Wales, based on George A. Romero classic Night of the Living Dead.
Whales, like the animal?
No, WALES. Just it's zombie apocalypse. Period. Whales. Period. Based on.
Oh, that's so weird.
So I guess it takes place in Wales.
Okay, here's another thing. I'm reading the description to the one that we watched, and it says, after inheriting the family mortuary, a pyrophobic mortician I didn't get the impression that he was afraid.
I didn't get any of that stuff the first time. When I watched it the second time, he says he references that he can't deal with the crematorium. Okay,
but the way that he said it was kind of he wouldn't let me do it, so I never learned how. And I was like, okay.
There's a moment I think it's when him and Jeffrey Combs are walking through the crematorium where he's kind of explains it, but you can't hear a lot of the dialogue in that scene. And
the other thing
Jeffrey Combs' mustache just overshadows everything.
True.
It was quite the performance on his
He is the
end.
only thing that made this movie watchable.
Reading the description, I now understand so much of the movie because well, we'll get into it, but there was a lot of stuff I was confused about. For some reason, I'm like one of those people, I have to watch with subtitles, and for some reason I could not get the subtitles to come on, so maybe I just lost,
I don't think, like, Tubi, not everything has subtitles. Like, I think it's just is, like, whoever submits the movies provides, because I can't remember, I don't think mine had subtitles either. I think it just didn't have them.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because I usually watch everything with subtitles, but, like, it has all of those VH1 shows, so that's usually what I watch them on, because I think everything but the first season of Flavor of Love is uncensored on Tubi, but it doesn't have subtitles. So it's extremely difficult understanding anything anybody says on those shows.
I mean, yeah.
I don't want to talk about this. Let's
before
turn this into a King of the Hill podcast.
Yes, let's go. I will say, again, this is not the worst movie that I've seen. It's not the worst zombie movie I've seen, because I have a really hard time telling sometimes if older movie. Well, this isn't really an older movie. It's 2012, like we said. But if movies are like bad on purpose, sort of. And so for this one, when I read that they categorize it as action, comedy, horror, like, was it supposed to be as bad as it was? Because if it was, then it's like pretty good.
I mean, I don't think, other than like the effects in it, that it's necessarily made bad. I just found it boring.
Well, it was boring, and they do that thing with the dialogue a lot where, like, I'm gonna call him the main character, Mr. Tovar.
Junior.
Like, Junior, yeah.
Junior.
Or Gerald, also. They call him, like, 5 names.
Well, I in all my notes, I called him Junior because it's Gerald and Harold.
Yeah.
Are the brothers.
I started writing, like,
Stupid.
G and H, and I was like, this is too much, I can't. So, a lot of the things that... It's, like, one of those movies where, like, he's interacting and talking to people, but, like, what he's saying is just, like, all one-liners. So it's, like, he's not really having a conversation with anybody. So if that's on purpose, then I like it. But if it's not, then it's really bad, if that makes sense. But I will say I did like the music in it, and I thought... Like, I know it's supposed to be watched in 3D, but I thought there were some cool, like, camera angles outside of that.
Were you into the music during the weed ecstasy scene?
Oh my god.
That was no, not that specifically, I will say. But, like, the opening scene, like, once he walks out of the morgue or whatever... Like, I liked the music, and I liked that whole... I don't know. It has some stuff. It's like pretty... I don't want to say... It's like pretty indicative of like a...
It's very like... At least
zombie
for, like,
movie.
Well,
like,
it's for like
know?
the stuff we've done on this podcast. It's very like middle of the road. Like,
Yeah.
if more stuff happened, I think I would have enjoyed it better. But for the most part, it's like until the last 5 or 8 minutes, it's like there's 3 zombies throughout the entire thing, and like it's just boring.
Yeah, it's fine, but dumb and boring, and that combination makes it like borderline unwatchable as a horror film.
I am like interested in watching the regular Night of the Living Dead 3D based on this, just because I want to see if they do anything with 3D, because this one barely does. Like, there were no moments in this that I watched it that I was like, oh, I forgot, like, this is a 3D movie. Like the entire time I forgot, and then I was like, oh, wait.
There was one, like, very painfully obvious one. Like, this shot, I don't want to ruin it now because it's, like, one of the only good things that happens in the movie, but it's at the very end, and it's, like, I think that the movie literally was made to show this, like, one shot in 3D. Like, I'm not even kidding.
The minute, like, as soon as we start talking about 3D, like, the only shot I can specifically remember other than the one you just brought up, I think I know where you're going, is the one where he's holding the, like, embalming tube, and he just, like, points it at the camera, and it's just, like, rubbing his hand up towards the camera. And that's, like, it. And I'm like, this was a huge waste of making
Can we
this
also
3D.
talk about how, like, gross and weirdly, like, sexual this movie was? About, like, embalming people?
I mean, Diane is a necrophiliac.
It's Diane.
Yeah, all of my notes, Dyeanne.
Literally nothing sexier than embalming people. All right.
Also, fucking a dead body with your full underwear on.
This is now a pro necrophilia podcast.
I can't wait. Like, I for the last, like, 8 episodes, instead of just coming up with, like, descriptions for, like, iTunes and shit, I've just put, like, this week we stand blank. So it was like Crossbow Dad and Zarabeth and, like, whatever. So now I'm just going to put this week we stand necrophilia.
Please don't.
Get an entire new fan base.
I don't.
In defense of necrophilia.
Listen, you don't want furries, but you're cool with, like, necrophilia. Well, whatever. We haven't even started talking about this movie.
Yeah, well, I guess let's get into this because it's bad. This movie was directed and written by Jeff Broadsheet, who did the Night of the Living Dead 3D. Yeah, Broad Street. Backstreet.
Backstreet's back. All right.
I wish that we should just do, like, an entire episode on the fucking Halloween video they did.
We should just do a whole one on all of them. We could do Boys for Now. We could do Werewolf Bar Mitzvah.
Yeah. I would do an entire episode on I Love You So Much It's Scary or whatever that song's called.
Yeah.
Anything to not talk about this movie. So, this movie stars Andrew Divoff as Gerald Tovar Jr., who I didn't think I was familiar with when I started watching this, and then I looked up and I was like, oh, this dude is in a shit ton of stuff.
Yes.
He looked really familiar to me, but I couldn't, like, place what I know him from.
He's done a bunch of stuff. Like, he's in, like, a bunch of episodes of The Blacklist. He was on Lost.
Yeah. He's the Russian dude on Lost.
I did not watch. He did a bunch of episodes of CSI Miami, Criminal Minds.
Oh, yeah, he's in a bunch of, like, crime shit, so that's probably what I know him from.
He was in Burn Notice. It took me a minute, and I was like, oh, this is the dude that played, like, Blackbeard on Briscoe County Jr.
Let's not forget Wishmaster.
Yeah, Wishmaster, fucking Air Force One, whatever
All
that
right.
movie's called.
We
Walker,
see you.
Texas Ranger. And Nash Bridges in basically the same time.
Oh, he was
Policeman
in the
number
Twilight
2 in
Zone.
McEnany.
Yes, that's what I was getting to.
He also plays a Russian in MacGyver. Oh my god.
This
Nathan.
is an Andrew Divoff podcast now.
He is in Matlock. I guarantee you that's what I recognize him from.
And Graveyard Shift.
He's also... Maytel, get out of here.
Hi, Maytel.
She's ignoring you.
And the 18.
Anyways,
yeah.
sorry.
And pretty much the only reason to watch this movie is Jeffrey Combs as Harold Tovar, because he plays a conspiracy theory dude, and it's pretty great. And Sarah Leaving as Christy, and that's pretty much all you need to know. Everybody else is just a terrible side character. Diane is alright, I guess.
She is pretty good.
Aunt Lou's pretty good too, I guess.
Oh, I liked her.
She
R.I.P.
was in the Twin Peaks, like, revival.
Nice.
That's, like, the only thing I kind of know her from. Oh, God. I don't... This movie is infuriating for, like, the first 40 minutes.
The opening is pretty funny, though.
The lady just screaming at him, because...
Yeah.
So, like, this movie opens, and it's just Junior getting screamed at by a lady because Diane did his corpse makeup, and she says he looks like a clown.
He does, though. She's like, she had some, like, crazy accent, and she's like, I can't believe you did this to my husband, and he's like, It is unfortunate.
Like, Andrew he has like no difference in anything he says. Everything is that same like monotone.
Yeah. Like no emotion at all.
He was like, I'm playing this movie like I'm a robot. So he gets yelled at. He eventually like wheels this corpse in the casket back into the back room where Diane is sculpting something that you never see. And he yells at her about how he got yelled at, essentially. He goes to leave and she flips off the sculpture for some reason. It's all real stupid and confusing.
She's just like really angsty.
Yeah, she is the quintessential what movie directors think goth people are.
Yeah, she's got like
Yes.
dark lipstick and like rings, and she's got like a Hot Topic corset on.
She's like the director saw The Craft once and was like, oh, this is what all goth people are. So
This is it. This movie nailed it.
and this is the first time that like he mentions he's got a lot on his mind when he yells at her. Like, he's like, I don't have time for this. I have a lot on my mind, blah, blah, blah. He leaves and goes out, and you're introduced to Aunt Lou, who I guess is a receptionist for this funeral home. And she's watching TV, and Junior kind of bitches to her about Diane. And she says something like, so is this strike 3? And he's like, I think it is. And she's like, I'll take care of it. Also, you have 2 appointments. And he does not want to deal with these appointments. One of them, though, is a job interview for Christie, whose name is spelled Christie.
I thought you were going to throw a Y in there.
I don't understand the spelling of any of these names because you never see it.
No.
I mean, I guess Diane, like, mentions it, but I don't know why Christie is spelled like this instead of just the normal way. Because now all of my notes on my computer have that, like, red squiggly line under them.
I just
it's called character building, Nathan.
Yeah. Her
last name is
extremely,
Forrest. Her name is Christy
extremely
Forrest.
fucking boring character.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she, like, she shows up for the interview, and you immediately cut to Junior going outside to talk to Russ, who is, I guess, buffing this gate that is around this door in the back. I don't know what the fuck he's doing.
I think he was like, it kind of looked like he was repainting it.
It looked like he had like one of those like the brushes you see when people are like shining shoes. It's so like there's so much shit where like I feel like people were just like, well, I'm just gonna like do this thing to add character.
He's like, I need you to polish this gate that no one's allowed to open. Make it look presentable.
The director is just like, all right, just act like you're busy, and he just like found a brush on set. It's like, well, I guess I'll tidy up this gate.
It's like an actual gate that probably was already there on this funeral home. Looks like it needs some work.
This dude also, like, I wrote, it's 2012. He looks like a dude named Matt. Do you guys know what I mean? Like,
he is extreme.
all he needed was like a puka shell necklace or some shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the metal ball necklace.
Or the balls. Yeah.
He's like extreme. Like he looks like he would have fit in perfectly
extreme.
with like in Freddy vs. Jason or like any 2002 horror movie as like the garbage sidekick of one of the friends.
Yeah, he's got like this spiked hair and like a plaid shirt, but like a brown one for some reason,
Terrible
like not even a
goatee.
cool one.
Anyway. So as Junior's out there like talking to him, he sees a car in the parking lot and asks Russ like whose car is that. Russ is like, oh, this guy came up to like talk to you, and hands him a card from Werner Gottschalk.
What a sick name.
Gottschalk. That's like 100% some like German metal band name.
Classic Werner.
Werner's card says that he is the State Inspector Division of Funeral, Cemetery, and Consumer Services. I have no idea what that means. Um, Russ tells him that, like, Werner went off to look at the cemetery while he's waiting on Junior. Junior yells at him to keep this cage locked. You cut to the cemetery, and Junior walks up, and, like, there's, like, a fence with a shovel against it, and he sees Werner out there, grabs the shovel. Werner is immediately attacked by a zombie that Junior decapitates in one of the worst effects of all time.
It was so bad. It was really bad, you guys.
And then, like, immediately decapitates Werner and says it's for his own good or some shit. It's
rude. Rude, honestly.
In a movie with some pretty not great effects, this one takes the cake for me.
Yeah, I think by far it was the worst, which is really unfortunate because it's like the first thing that happens.
Does not set the tone very well.
I also feel like you can't decapitate a body with a shovel that easily.
Right? I'm very impressed. Like the strength required to get it clean like that.
I'm not gonna Google it.
I can, like, give it to, like, a rotting zombie or whatever. Like, okay, like, obviously it's, like, rotting, the flesh is weaker. Not this living dude. Like, with the muscle in the neck and all that shit, and just the spine alone, I can't imagine just
Can
a
we
shovel.
move on fast?
And, like, can you imagine with, like, the tendons and...
Just so much meat.
This is the worst thing.
Man.
This is my science corner.
I was gonna say
I need to break this down.
I need to start texting
you don't have
Kit
the
and be like,
science.
hey, we need a science corner.
You don't know that.
Go decapitate a
What
body
is
with
it?
a shovel.
The science is there's a lot of neck meat in there, so you need a real sharp shovel. And like Arnold Schwarzenegger swinging it.
Not this skinny old dude.
Yeah.
Nothing against Andrew Divoff, who I'm sure is a very strong man.
I mean, my only thing that I'm gonna say is that, like, maybe it's because he has practice.
I just like he goes.
I don't know.
He goes back, and like this like delivery van pulls up, and he yells at Russ to tell them no deliveries until further notice. And Russ is like, "What's with the bloody shovel?" And he's like, "Gophers."
Yes.
Which is like,
and he's just like,
real fucked
okay.
up.
Then
Just
he
out
like
there.
walks over to the van. Oh, and also he's like, but it's from that company. And he's like, I know what company it's from. And I was like, what company is it? Am I supposed to know what this is? And then Russ walks up to the guy and he's just like, I don't know. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want them. And I was like, I assume that it's bodies, right?
Now that I'm like thinking about it, like maybe the government dropping shit off.
Right. So that's why I'm like, he's like, he doesn't want them here. And I'm like, what is this guy driving the van supposed to do with a van full of bodies then?
Just drive in a circle until you find someone who wants them.
Drive a town over, since they state this is the only funeral home in this town.
Yeah, he's like, take them back to the government.
Just
return them.
Drop them in a sewer. It'll be all right. So Junior goes back in and has the first of his meetings with the Delamos family, about funeral service for their dad, and they state that they want to have him cremated, and Junior is immediately uncomfortable. You cut to Diane watching a White Zombie for some reason. It's not Night of the Living Dead, which seems like it would have been more apt. I think the next thing is Christie's interview, where she like graduated from some shit to become like a, I guess, mortuary worker
from death school.
Yeah, she says like the name of the school, but I did not write it down because I don't care.
My favorite part of this like whole interaction is that whenever he says like, oh, we're the mortuary, whatever, he calls it a one-stop shop. And I was like, ugh.
I just like how excited she is when he's just like, I can hire you as an apprentice. The money's not good, but it'll do. She's like, all right, cool.
Yeah, she's
great.
stoked.
I'll start right now.
Glad I'm never paying off my student debt from going to college to get this apprentice job.
And then she also like immediately asks him about doing like cremations again,
Well-
and then he's like weird about it again, and I was like, what?
Yeah, he says that like he gives like some backstory about like first time he says that like he took it over from his father when his father died. She asks like if they do cremations there, and he says that they don't do too many. It's just being weird. All of it is extremely strange. Their interactions throughout the entire movie are extremely uncharismatic and weird.
Yeah, I wrote, and it's weird a lot. Like, a lot.
I feel like something else they say happened in that scene that, oh, yeah, that was the thing. He's like, can you start now? And she's like, I can start right this second, which is real fucking weird. I can't imagine going to a job interview and starting as soon as the interview is over.
I'd be like, nah, I cannot.
I am
Can you
not.
imagine going to embalm a body in your nice interview clothes?
Right, yeah,
like,
exactly.
all right, well, let's go get started.
So, you get a quick scene of Junior showing Christy around, introduces her to Diane, which is when she's like, oh, like Diane it is? She's like, no, Diane, with a Y and an E.
I thought that part was weird to me because I thought she was saying it like D-I-E, Diane.
That's what I thought too. I thought that was
And
the
then-
joke.
I thought it was too, but then she's like with a Y and an E, and I was like, okay.
That's so much worse. Junior, like every other scene in this movie, leaves to go do something else.
Yeah, he's like, I have to go check on something. Also, so I kind of was like not paying attention during this part, and I think he said something to not Diane, Christy, about how Diane is like an apprentice, but she doesn't know how to like embalm or whatever. And so he's like, hey, lady, I literally just hired. Can you show this other girl how to do this embalming? I'll be right back.
Yeah, she doesn't
I'm
know
like,
she's getting fired.
right, but I'm also like, you don't know her, and you just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
The
all
whole thing
weird.
was like really weird to me.
Also, Diane is not happy about it.
No, she's not.
And then Harold arrives with his
Harold!
extremely tan Dwight Schrute suit and a
I was
sick
like,
mustache.
He's dressed like a Jurassic Park like employee.
He's literally dressed like the hunter dude in Jurassic Park 2. Is that 2
Yeah.
the guy that's like the big hunter?
No, like hunts the velociraptors.
Yeah, and is like wants to like hunt the T-Rex and shit, or is that 3?
Those two.
They're-
No, is it?
Yeah.
I don't
Because he's got Peter Stormare as his like right-hand man.
Okay.
There's like multiple hunters, so I'm not really sure who you're
It's
talking
like
about.
the guy that like they have the scene where he's like got the fucking seat that like extends out of the Jeep that he's sitting in and like shooting.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're like trying to capture them to like take them back or whatever,
Yeah.
and Jeff Goldblum like has his daughter there.
Yeah, like for some reason I don't remember like him and Jeff Goldblum being in the same movie, but I keep thinking it was like the one with Sam Neill, the unwatchable one.
Excuse you.
Jurassic Park 3 is
They're all
garbage.
no, they're all amazing.
Everything after 2.
They're all good.
I haven't seen
Well,
any
I'm
of the
not
world
condoning
ones,
Jurassic
but
World, to be fair, but I didn't see the second Jurassic World, but I think I need to see the third one because everyone's gonna be in it.
Only if it goes to space and they start doing the
Oh,
raptor-human
God, I
hybrids
hope
like
so.
they were talking about.
I hope there's just pterodactyls
Yeah.
flying around with space helmets on.
Yes, and laser wings.
I mean, there's been pterodactyls loose since like the first one, so
Not with space helmets.
natural. Well, no, the natural evolution is that they're gonna go into space.
So-
Like, duh.
Quick side story: the other night, Caitlin and I watched 47 Meters Down, which
Solid film.
I agree, it's not bad. It just turned in though that like you have all of these weird shots that look like it became this story of how the sharks are actually filming the movie, and it was actually a Saw movie, and we were gonna call it Jig Shark. And now that's like all I want. Like all I could think about is a movie called Jig Shark where sharks are building traps to put humans in.
I can get behind that.
Done.
And also put it in space.
Oh.
Yes. The ocean got moved to space for science.
Holy shit! Could you that? Now I need a movie where some like evil scientist somehow makes it so the ocean is in space.
An evil scientist.
Oh, I need it. All of this is.
I'm gonna Google the science behind that one
Okay, go for
for
it.
next week. We'll come back
Okay.
to this.
Can we also talk about so before Harold shows up, Tovar goes into the crematory room. And when you first see it, he's standing there staring at it, much like he does throughout the movie. And there's one little tiny ass lock on that door. And so at this point you don't know there's zombies behind it. And I wrote really, does he have zombies behind that tiny ass locked door? And guess what? He totally does. It's literally one little lock that you buy for your locker at Walmart.
Yeah, that would work.
I don't know that it would.
I don't.
What?
So I've never seen the inside of a crematorium, but I'm very confused as to why it is that big, and I did not see anywhere fire comes from.
It's not. That's
It's
not. Yeah, it's not
extremely
actually a
confusing.
crematorium.
They turn the AC off, and
It-
it gets real hot, and you feel like you're.
Yeah, you get a scene of Junior in this crematorium, and he's got a camera set up, and you also get a scene of Diane and Christy talking, and Diane talking about how she hates her hours, and Christy's like, "Oh, too many late nights," and she's like, "I only like working at nights because there's no
only
people."
dead people.
I just put Diane talking about loving working nights because goth.
And then
no, good.
yeah, I was gonna say Russ comes in and he's like, "Oh, hey, oh sorry, I thought you were Diane. I'll call you later." And I was like, "Oh, are they boning?" They're not though.
Yeah, he's too alive.
Well,
Junior checks this camera and sits down, and you just see kind of all of these fucked up bodies everywhere that you kind of can barely see, but you could just tell there's fucked up bodies everywhere.
right. So I assume that this part was one of the first 3D, seeing back into the crematory, because it's I the CG is really bad, but there's something weird about it too.
I think it's 3D, but it's that shitty 3D that only kind of works if you're in a movie theater, where it just adds dimension to the scene. It's not
right.
fun
Yeah.
3D where
Not
something
pop
comes
out
at
at
the
you.
screen. It's there's that. There's anytime the one zombie reanimates in there, and then there's the scene later when Harold is in the grave.
Yeah, I assumed that was one too, because that looked so fucking weird.
It looks terrible.
Literally looks like you're on the Haunted Mansion or some shit. It's so weird.
So, while Junior's in the crematorium, one of the bodies reanimates that he immediately bashes in the head with a shovel, and the head just caves in like a fucking rotten cantaloupe.
It was pretty dope.
Yeah, it's one of the maybe 2 gore scenes in the movie that look not terrible. As he goes to leave and he's locking the crematorium up, Aunt Lou's out there and brings Harold in, and it's immediately weird.
Yeah.
All of I can't overstate how ridiculous and good Jeffrey Combs is in this, as just this weird conspiracy kind of nerd dude, because he's always standing with his hands on his hips, but kind of too high for his hips, and this tan suit, he just looks
It's very dad energy.
yes,
Yeah,
extremely.
yeah.
Very boomer dad energy.
So they have a quick back and forth and go out to talk to Aunt Lou, I guess, who is watching TV, and this is when you get Sister Sarah, the Sarah Sanders impersonator, in this movie for inexplicable reasons.
Sarah Palin.
What did I say, Sarah Sanders?
Yeah.
Same thing, basically.
Mm,
I was like, "Who's Sarah Sanders?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot she existed."
Yeah. It's a little
Man,
too
everything's
much
terrible.
Too much real world coming in. Yeah, there is a Sarah Palin impersonator in this movie for some reason I do not
And
understand.
she's like a
It's like,
she's like an actual character. She's not just like on TV, which I was not expecting.
Yeah, she's like, and she just barely looks like Sarah Palin. Like, it's just they put her in a red suit, put her hair up, and put glasses on her. She's like the porn version of Sarah Palin.
I feel like the porn version looked more like Sarah Palin.
Yeah, it's like
than-
they were literally like, oh, you have glasses and you're brunette? You look like Sarah Palin.
Well, she had the little like voice too.
Well, kind of. Basically, all she does is put on like a sort of Alaskan accent and just says like, you know, a lot.
Don't you know?
Listen, this girl is in a movie. The lady who plays her is in a movie called Frogtown 2, and I think we need to watch it.
I've always wanted to see the first one, so we should do a doubleheader.
Is it
Hell Comes to Frogtown.
wait, so is it a sequel to that?
In the sequel to Hell Comes to Frogtown,
Jesus
the mutant
Christ.
frog leader of Frogtown kidnaps a
How-
professor and forces
what-
him to make a serum that will turn everyone into frogs.
What is the year difference between those movies?
The second one came out in '92.
And she's
Okay,
in
not
that?
bad.
She must be playing like a little kid in it then.
She plays a doctor.
How is that possible? She only
Hey,
looks like she's
doctors.
30 in this movie in 2012.
I don't know.
God damn it, I hate time so much. So basically, she's on screen talking about a conspiracy theory that Dick Cheney is a zombie because he doesn't have a pulse.
Oh, I missed like what they were talking about.
Harold is just 100% in love with her because he's a dumb right-wing conspiracy guy. Junior says, "Do you smell it?" And like Harold's like, "Smell what?" And he's like, "The smell of kook." And like Harold says something, and he's like, Junior just goes, "What? Did you become a teabagger? Did you?"
Yeah, and he's like, they talk about teabagging a lot.
Which, like, again, we were talking before we started recording, trying to figure out the timeline of how out of date this Sarah Palin was. Where it was like, I feel
Very.
like the teabag, whatever it was, the fucking Tea Party, that's what it was. Weren't
Yeah.
they were in like 2008 as well then, right?
Yeah.
So this is 4 years out of date.
I mean, I don't know how long it took them to shoot this movie, but
I
Maybe
mean,
they-
I believe like it's already a long time. 6 years past the first 3D one.
No movie that turned out like this should have taken 4 years.
I feel like this movie,
Oh.
because it takes place in one building, well, I guess 2 with his house, is like this movie
Yeah,
should have
that's true.
taken 4 days to film.
Maybe.
I give them
That's a
5,
stretch.
5 just to do the fucking animated effects.
That's including like Jeffrey Combs like sprained his hamstring and was out a couple of days.
That counts the days it took him to grow that mustache.
He accidentally shaved it off after night 1, so had to wait until night 4.
Did Katie, did you get some of this, like the stuff that scrolls on the screen on Fix News, Fixe News?
no, I tried
Alright.
to, but one of them was something like Asian Americans want all of the U.S.'s ammonia or some shit. It was all
What?
so bizarre. I don't know. I was gonna like pause it, but then I just wanted it to be over.
Like when I watched it the
That's
first
for the best.
when I watched it the first time, I was like, I made a mental note where I was like, I should try and write down like what some of this stuff is when I actually take notes for it. So when I watched it to take notes and that started happening, I was like, I don't have the will in me to make this movie last longer than it needs to again.
Yeah. Anyways, so Harold is like, "This woman is America," or some shit. And I was like, what?
Like him and like Junior go walking off to go to like their dad's office or whatever, and Harold just leans over to like Aunt Lou and just gets real close and points at the screen. He's just like, America, and just walks off. It rules so much. I love Jeffrey Combs so much. If they had like anybody else in this movie, I would have just been out completely. The scene later on when it's like him explaining all of the conspiracy shit about zombies is so good. So Junior and Harold go to like their dad's office, which Junior has done nothing with. It still apparently looks exactly the same. And they start talking about their daddy's broom handle.
I was like, what?
Which is some gross shit.
A gun.
Ends up being a gun.
Yeah. He's like, oh, yeah, daddy. I was like, what?
Two grown
the scene
men
is so weird.
Saying daddy just bums me out.
Well, they call him daddy the whole time, too.
Yeah, it's... I feel like sometimes Harold says father. Yeah, like when... but later on he says father a bunch. But this scene where he's just like... They keep saying daddy's broom handle, and I'm just like, please stop.
Yeah.
Katie, do you want to talk about Harold getting a drink?
Oh my god. I don't know, so basically he's like, they're like sitting there and Harold is sitting by a mini fridge and he's like, all of the dialogue between them is so fucking weird. I don't even know what they say, but then he's like, oh, I want a drink, and he's like, why don't you reach in there? And he just like stares at him and he's like, it's not diet. And so Harold like reaches into this fridge and there's like a zombie baby in there.
So like he reaches in, but Harold refuses to look in the refrigerator as he's doing it.
Yeah, he's just like, he's just got his arm and he's like fishing around and there's like a zombie baby.
Yeah, you see like this baby in there that doesn't move until right before he reaches out, and it just kind of like opens its eyes a little bit and like moves its head a little to the side.
And then Harold's like, oh, what have we got here? And then Junior's like, why don't you pull it out or something like that? And then he just like pulls it out and it's a bottle of water. And I was like, and that is never explained. How does he have a zombie baby and why is it in a mini fridge? Like, I don't understand. Oh, because then later he's like, oh, I'm hungry. And he was like, oh, well, come over to my house and I'll make you dinner unless you want something from the mini fridge. And I was like, ew, there's a baby in there.
Number one, they make a comment about how nothing in the room has been touched since their dad died, which I'm gonna say maybe I'll give it, maybe it's been like 3 months, somewhere around there, which means like, yes, it's water, but it also looks like refilled bottles of water because there's no labels on them.
Yeah.
So like, I don't want to know how gross that water probably is, especially sitting next to a zombie baby for who knows how long.
That's fine.
Yeah, you're probably... Apparently, Harold was a veterinarian, but not anymore. He had to stop doing that for some reason and just says he needs money. Junior goes to get in his wallet to give him some money, and Harold's like, that's not the kind of money I need. And they kind of argue about money for a minute, and Junior says, you got oil on your tinfoil if you think I got money.
Incredible line.
The other thing that's like so weird about their back and forth is that every single time they say something, they have to like say each other's names, and I'm like, are they just trying to like get us to remember what their names are? But it's literally like every single line.
I don't even care as long as they stop saying daddy's broom handle.
Well,
eventually Harold says that he will challenge the will to get money from Junior. Junior yells at him, calls him a half tovar, which is what I'm going to start using as an insult so nobody gets it. And then immediately apologizes and like says, come up to the house, I'll make you dinner, we'll talk about money. They have a very weird goodbye where like they don't know whether to hug or shake hands, and like Junior does like the fake belly punch thing, and then Harold just kind of like hits him in the stomach and walks away.
Brother stuff.
It's real awkward. Which I feel like that fits Harold's character pretty perfectly, because he just seems like he would be extremely awkward. Junior goes back to his office and immediately puts on some bright-ass white Crocs.
Okay, let me read to you this what I wrote. Because this scene was so crazy. I wrote, Tovar puts on white Crocs while Russ talks about his brother's gross ponytail.
There's no explanation as to why he's asking about his brother. Like, Junior asks him about his brother, and then you never get an explanation as to why.
No, he's just like, my brother's kind of weird. He's got a ponytail and it's gross. See ya. And I was like, what?
Like,
I mean, that's pretty weird.
I just, like, the first time I watched it, I was like, why is this dude putting on fucking Crocs? Like, is he just like, you know what? This is the last scene of the day. I'm done with this shit. I'm just spitting these lines out. Fuck them. They could watch me put my Crocs on. That's so weird. But Russ essentially comes in to apologize for leaving the oven room door open earlier. Junior is just like, it's fine, just make sure it stays locked, gives him his keys back, tells him to go wash the what are those cars called?
The hearse?
Yeah, the hearse. I don't think he says hearse, but I can't remember what he calls it. Essentially, it's the hearse, though.
Corpse-mobile.
Yeah, the corpse-mobile. What?
I don't remember. I remember the brother says it later, and he's like, you got the whatever the car is. And I was like, what is it? You got them.
No, that's different. He's got, like, his dad's old car.
Well, I assumed that he was going to wash that because then he, like, drives him in it, and he's, like, impressed.
No,
I don't know.
He's got some, like,
was
weird,
sort of not paying attention by this point.
Weird, like, Eastern European, like, tiny car, because you see it when he backs out. It's like, it's a very weird looking car. Junior comes in to show Christy and Diane how to embalm a body. Diane is like, you smell like menthol, and is like creeping into it.
He's like, my special aftershave just for you. And Christy's like, what the fuck?
I feel like he's definitely fucked Diane.
Oh, for sure.
Do you think he played dead?
I hope so. I mean, hey, that's at least 2 consenting adults. It's not her and a fucking non-consenting dead body.
I guess so.
He walks in there and just, like, describes this whatever the tool is to embalm a body, and then immediately is like, oh, my alarm's going off, gotta go. Just like every other goddamn scene. So
Christy's face is like, what is happening?
Christy is like the entire movie until like the end is just kind of like, this is the fucking strangest job I've ever had.
Yeah, what a like crazy first day.
I wonder, like, that was, so we'll get to it later, but I wonder if she's in the sequel. Like, because maybe he explains what happens with her in the sequel. Or, you know, what's not really a sequel, but, like, whatever. The original Night of the Living Dead 3D.
No, I hope no one's in the sequel.
She's only in this one.
It's been past 6 years, so they're past their time for a sequel. It seems like this is on a 6-year time schedule. Yeah, so he leaves, goes back into the crematorium and replaces a tape in the camera. Goes back to his office and is just fast forwarding through the tape he just took. You cut back to the crematorium as one of the bodies reanimates, and this is like the one that just looks real weird. Like it's.
I wrote emo zombie is alive. He had like emo hair.
He's just like he's obviously in front of a green screen.
Oh yeah,
like it
for sure.
It almost looks like a 2000 like it's just whatever, like a Resident Evil game in like 2000, like a cutscene.
This is like one of the parts that, again, I thought like maybe it's supposed to be 3D because it looks so fucking weird.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's probably supposed to be like popped out of the background a little bit.
Yeah.
So you cut to Junior and Harold going to Junior's house. This is when you get like the weird car we were talking about earlier. Their dad's grave is apparently just in the backyard, along with at least 2 other ones. And Harold like takes a moment looking at the grave as Junior goes inside. Junior calls Diane and tells her to go ahead and embalm the body with Christy, which makes me believe they were standing around for a solid at least an hour waiting for him to come back.
Also, it's like he knew he was going to take his brother up there, so like why was he like
They were at least standing around long enough for him to go to the crematorium, replace the tape, go back to his office and fast forward through this tape, and then meet up with his brother and drive to the house and the brother to have like a moment with the grave.
right, and he's like, oh, but then
I feel
there's
like
this
they
weird
stood there
scene.
for at least a day.
I say then he calls and Diane picks up the phone and she's like weirdly like she's like being all like turned on or whatever, and then she gets pissed off that he's not coming back, and I was like, what is happening between them?
It's real weird because it's like she's just like, oh, hey Junior, or like Gerald or whatever, and then it's just immediately like okay, and hangs up, and she's like, jerk. And that's when she's just like, he told us to go ahead and embalm the body ourselves. So at this point, Russ shows back up and knows the body on the table as his weed dealer. Because there's a bunch of stuff about how this body, I guess, was a guy that died from like a meth overdose, or they assume. They, for some reason, don't seem to know what this guy died from, which I feel like maybe is something a funeral home would know. I know they probably don't do, like, they don't do the autopsy, but, like,
No,
I don't know. It feels
feel
like they
like
would get that information.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they actually pass that information on, but Russ is also just like standing there eating a carrot.
Okay, so
Like,
if don't like they embalming is like the process of like draining all of the fluids from the body, right? Like, wouldn't they do that during the autopsy?
no. So
Not necessarily.
they drain whatever, but then they replace it with embalming liquid,
Okay.
which like preserves it, which
It
they definitely would not do during an
seems
autopsy.
like
But
all of this should just be done at one time.
okay.
I mean, I don't know. I'm
Nathan is
just like,
demanding.
I'm just thinking about how like
efficiency.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
When I'm
I mean,
dead, just
not,
dump my body in the garbage. Don't go through with
There
any
you
of
go.
this.
I think the reason that it's not done together is because, like, a coroner literally just like digs through there and finds out like what happened, and then it's not like they don't know this person wants to be cremated or this person wants to be turned into a tree or like whatever, because it's like just it's. Also, I just want to say like the whole funeral industry is like a racket, but
Yes.
it's yeah. So
Yeah, I don't know. Russ is there, and he's just like eating carrots and looking at the body, and talks about how it's not gonna make him sick. He's seen some shit. You cut back to
Concerning.
you cut back to Junior's house, where he has made Harold eggs and beer. And Harold's just like, I would have preferred coffee. And he's just like, well, I give you tap water. And Harold is appalled and goes off about all of the shit
Like,
they put
freaks
in your
the
tap
fuck
water.
And then he says this line about, I wrote it down. Oh, because he's like, you know what else they put in water, blah, blah, blah. And then Gerald's like, okay, man, calm down. And he says, perfect paranoia is perfect preparedness.
Oh, God. That's some
Can't argue with
fucking
that.
boomer conspiracy theory shit.
I mean,
Harold definitely had a bug out bag
oh, for
in
sure.
his car.
He's also like I guarantee you, he's got like a bomb shelter in his backyard. That's where.
I was about to say,
That's why he needs
I really
money.
hope he's like, I wish they would do like another spin-off movie where he's like a doomsday prepper.
Yeah, I just realized you never find out why he needs money.
The veterinary business, and
He
it went
says-
under.
Yeah.
Wait, what
But
is
is
it?
that true? Go ahead.
No, like I don't. What does he say? Why? I never heard like the two
Oh.
times I watched it.
I'm just speculating.
No. Like all they say is that he's not a veterinarian anymore, and then it's just he just keeps demanding that he needs a shit ton of money.
Well, he couldn't afford to put that underground bunker in his house.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with that. He just paid too much money for a bunker that he didn't have, and now he's got a bunch of credit card debt.
I mean, they do sort of like, all he says really is that like his practice went under, so I guess maybe he's trying to like insinuate that he's just like in the hole because of it, but maybe it is supposed to be something, because he's like real desperate for the money too.
Yeah.
His practice made perfect.
So you get a quick scene of this zombie slowly shuffling in this crematorium again. And you cut back to Harold and Junior arguing about their problems and who's got it worse. And you get another quick scene. Oh, you cut back and it's Russ, Diane, and Christy are taking a break and getting high, just out of nowhere.
This is like
Well,
the weirdest.
that,
I'm not gonna say what happens yet, but this like whole thing is so
yeah,
weird.
it's just them like sitting on the ground and like Christy's just like, oh, like taking a break was a good idea as they pass around a joint. You cut back to Junior and Harold in the house, and Junior starts telling Harold about the zombies, and Harold is like asks if they're fast or slow, shamblers or sprinters.
That was so funny. And he was like, they're pretty slow. And he
yeah.
goes, oh.
Yeah, he's like, they're
Go
slow, and Harold goes, Romero zombies. Harold goes, he's like, after Junior tells him all this stuff, Harold's like, I think I will have that beer, and goes off to get another beer, but goes and makes a call to, I guess, his lawyer, and tells him to look into mental incompetence to, I guess, fight his brother for the will. You get more shit with this zombie shuffling around as the camera dies in that Junior has set up. And you cut back to Diane, Russ, and Christy, where it is revealed that Diane is a necrophiliac. Christy immediately has a hallucination as weird 70s fucking hippie music starts playing extremely loud. As she's just kind of like, she's doing that thing that like she's like trying to focus on like the body on the table that gets up, walks over naked, and just starts getting high with them. Has to,
He has to like, his like lips are sewn shut, and he has to like make a little like pry his lips open to put like the joint in his lips. And I was like, I literally was like, am I tripping? Like this is so bizarre.
and it spends like a solid like couple minutes just going back and forth between like Russ nodding and this fucking body nodding and just passing this joint around, and it's just like loud ass fucking Jimi Hendrix rip-off music playing. Christy eventually kind of like looks back over, and like she looks back to her side and Diane's gone, and she looks up and Diane is now on top of this body on the table. I don't know if this is a hallucination or real.
That's the thing,
And like
right?
she's
'Cause, like when you find out
like-
she's whenever he says that she is like do like whatever, they're also like smoking, so it's like, who knows if this whole, I mean, I get the feeling because she's like really weird, like her vibes tell me it's probably true, but it is one of those scenes where you're like, I don't really know if this happened or not.
Yeah, and she's wearing like the most covering underwear possible that like makes it impossible that she's actually fucking this body. It's real I don't know. All of it is just real weird. Like, I'm totally fine that like they didn't do the super exploitive thing and make her like topless or whatever, but like I don't know,
Yeah,
it
that's
just
true.
looks weird. Yeah, it's like it's just all of a sudden out of nowhere this scene happens, and you're just like, what the fuck?
I like literally texted you what the fuck in all caps.
I was like waiting to hear your reaction to this scene. So you cut back to Junior telling Harold about his dad, like their dad's side business about burning government medical waste in the crematorium, and that he would take literally anything they brought. And at one day they brought this big duffel bag full of something, and like after the dad died, Harold kept taking the money to burn this stuff, but like couldn't burn any of it, I guess, because he just can't deal with fire. And it's the same with like the bodies that just all started like piling up. And one day, like, one of the bodies came back to life. Harold is just like, oh, it was the government, like, crack. And Junior's just like, this isn't a drug thing. And he's like, no, like, CRAC, corpse reanimation cover-up. And he, he goes,
crack.
He delivers, like, maybe the only good line in the entire movie, where he's like, but there were outbreaks in Pittsburgh in 68, then again in 78, then Louisville in 85, and then again in Pittsburgh in the 90s. And he's like the 90s one was similar to 68, but more gory.
See, I unfortunately at this point I was like messing with my phone or something, and I missed like all of this, so the rest of it was like really confusing to me.
He's just essentially referencing Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead,
right,
and then I guess, is Louisville supposed to, is that Return of the Living Dead? Or is that Day of the Dead? No, Day of the Dead's in Florida.
Day is in Florida.
So I guess it's got to be Return of the Living Dead?
I think, to be honest, the only one that I've seen is Day of the Dead.
How dare you?
I'm just like not really into zombies.
We're absolutely doing the Night of the Living Dead remake.
I mean,
because it rules. That's the one from the 90s that they reference. That is like the 68 one, but more gory. I feel like we just 100% announced ourselves as not knowing what we're talking about with the 85 one.
It was Return.
I mean,
by
that's
the
what
way.
I figured, but then I was like, as soon as I started saying it, I was like double, or like, doubted what I was saying. Because I was like, wait, because I know Day of the Dead's in the 80s, but I was like, no, that's like Florida, because there's that fucking crocodile wandering around the streets.
Everyone should know I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about by now.
Yeah.
We're 57 episodes in.
Yeah, I don't think anyone pretended like we did.
I feel like somebody probably does. They just
Well,
probably...
guess what, idiot?
Yeah. Hard stance against you.
Oh no, I like don't. I'm like not a super big fan of like zombies. Like I like zombie games, but not really movies, because to me they're all like, I've seen some like here or there, and they're usually just like the same shit. So
the only ones you really need to see are basically like the Romero ones up through, I guess, like I'd say Land of the Dead. Land of the Dead's good.
I'm pretty sure I saw that in the theater and I didn't like it.
How dare you? John Leguizamo's in it.
Oh, then I've definitely seen it because I love him.
I think like Kit and I are like the only two that were willing to go on the line to say it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the more that I've like been watching these movies like for the show, the more that I've realized I used to be like pretty like if the movie was bad, I would be like, this is terrible, I hate it, instead of trying to find some things about it that I do like. And I'm like a lot more less movie critic now than I was like when I was actively watching a lot of this stuff. So I feel like if I revisit some of them, probably I was like too serious about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there are like some zombie movies I like that I don't think anyone likes 28 Days Later, but I did.
A lot of people like 28 Days Later. I don't think they like the 28 Weeks Later.
I meant you.
No, I like 28 Days Later. I just
okay.
don't
I like
consider
that
it a
one.
zombie movie.
Right, and I really liked like the Crazies, so I like ones more like that.
We're
and then...
absolutely, if it comes on streaming, we'll make you watch the George Romero Crazies.
Okay.
All right.
And then, okay,
yeah.
go ahead.
Where are we? Oh, Junior asks Harold where he like learned all this shit, and he's like, the internet. Everything on the internet's true. And Junior's like, where did you hear that? And he's like, the internet.
His like face during this whole scene is so funny
it's so
too.
good. Like Jeffrey Combs is so good in this scene. So at this point, Junior just gets pissed and he's like, fine, I'll show you the zombies. And Harold's like, no, you're drunk. And he's like, you drive then. And he's like, well, I'm getting you coffee, so you're sobered up. And Junior's like, we'll sober up real quick after we get there.
He's like, you know how to drive a stick, right? And he's like, of course I do. And I was like, oh.
It's like, yeah, I'm a man. I can drive a stick, which I can't.
Right? No. Like.
So at this point, they tell Christy that the weed was laced with ecstasy.
Which is like so fucked up.
I feel like if you're going to do that, like somebody should have fucked besides Diane in this body and this weird hallucination. Like, it just seems like a waste to be like, you're laced with ecstasy now. Like, I don't know, it's weird. All of that drug scene is just real weird.
Yeah, because like I don't understand. Like, now, okay, so now obviously we're supposed to be like, well, did that really happen? But like, what's the point of any of that happening at all?
I think it was just to make this movie not be 50 minutes long. Junior and Harold arrive back at the funeral home and go into the crematorium, and Harold immediately throws up at the smell. Junior hands him a shotgun, and he's just like, here, you're a Second Amendment kind of guy. And he's like, I'll stick with the shovel. And they go walking through, and there's just like a bunch of explanation about like the bodies in there and like where they came from and how Junior like couldn't burn them and couldn't burn like the medical waste, and it's just a bunch of exposition.
He's like, he basically is saying like, okay, so now I get the part about him being afraid of fire. I didn't get that from the movie at all. But then he's like, and I just was like kind of procrastinated, and then stuff just kind of started piling up. Because originally I was like, if he's waiting for these things to reanimate and kill them, like, why doesn't he get rid of the other parts? And it's like, oh, he literally just was like depressed because his dad died, so he couldn't get rid of the bodies. And I was like, all right.
Yeah, it's all dumb and convoluted. But they eventually come to the back of the room that has a wall with a half body attached to it that is the body of Bobby Joe that I think he calls Bub at some point. But it's again, this like entire scene is kind of hard to make out some of the dialogue. He was Junior's assistant, said he was like a son to him and he would have passed down the whole business to him at some point, but he was torn in half by an 18-wheeler. Junior tied him up there just in case he came back and control him, which lends more to why I think I heard him call him Bub. Yeah. And so you get a flashback of Junior watching tapes as he's explaining the first time he saw one of the zombies get up, because he was like fast forwarding through the tape. As they go to walk away, you see that Bobby Joe is reanimated, and Harold is fed up with Junior, tells him he's going back to the motel, that this is all crazy. After Harold leaves, Aunt Lou comes walking in, says she forgot her purse, got to the casino, and had to like drive back, and is immediately attacked and bit in the arm by a zombie. That Junior shoots right in the head, that his entire head explodes.
Yeah.
Which does not make sense with later in the movie when none of their heads explode.
He's got a really soft head.
Junior takes Aunt Lou to his office and lays her on the couch, and she's just like, why are we going to the hospital? And he's just like, I don't think they could help you. And she's like, what are you saying? I'm dead now?
Did they kill me?
Yeah,
they killed me?
So weird. Junior tells her to rest and he'll be back in a while and let everything be just the way it's supposed to be, and leaves. He just leaves and I guess goes and watches old like 8mm footage of his dad and him somewhere.
Really weird.
Yeah. Christy just wakes up on one of the tables for the dead bodies, and just like looks at like the face protecting thing that now has a smiley face and blood drawn on it for just again more inexplicable reasons.
Yeah.
And hears a noise and follows it to Junior's office and opens it, and it's Aunt Lou as a zombie. At the same time this is happening, Diane, again inexplicably, has brought Sister Sarah back to the funeral home.
Okay, so I figured out why.
I know they mentioned that like she's having a book signing at the mall or some shit, but like
I thought that they said something about like there's like some throwaway line later when they go back into the crematorium where that guy was just like, "Oh yeah, there was a bus crash." So I think like I don't know, I thought it was like connected to that somehow.
well, but like why does like they just mentioned some shit about like she comes in, Diane and Sister Sarah walk in, and she's just like thankfully you guys were able to like pick me up, so I don't like why stay here and wait for the and the guy like Russ is like, it's called a tow truck.
Oh.
But like I guess maybe her car breaks down in front of the building then.
Her car broke down. Diane's brings in like another body, so maybe she like went to go get a body and saw her and picked her up. Okay.
Why
yeah, that makes
the
sense.
fuck does this Sarah Palin, like, okay, so I mean, just assuming it's Sarah Palin, how is she by herself? Why is there not, if she's running for something or she's some sort of person, like how is there not a bodyguard?
It's 4 years after anyone gave a shit who she was.
I guess true. Where's
right.
fucking, what was her husband's name? Trip?
Garfield.
I'm pretty sure it's Trip. Somebody in her family's name is Trip, so
I think that was
one of the 18
It was her son or her daughter's son. Yeah, I don't know. Have to go back and rewatch the Palin reality show and find out.
God. So, Sister Sarah's there now. Christy comes running in and it's just like, something's wrong with Aunt Lou, as Aunt Lou busts in and just bites Sister Sarah on the neck. Sister Sarah takes it all pretty well after yelling for a second. Diane takes Sarah out of the room to get to help her. Russ uses a gurney to hold Lou back as Christy hands him a bottle of, I guess, sulfuric acid that he throws at Aunt Lou's stomach, which burns all the way through except for her spine, somehow leaving that intact.
But then she also dies for some reason.
Yeah, somehow this zombie just dies from sulfuric acid just burning through her stomach. Diane is in what I guess is a church room, bandaging up Sarah's neck and explaining to her about zombies, and it's real creepy and somewhat sort of flirty and weird, and I hate all of it.
Yeah, it's gross.
And she's like, oh, the ghouls, they crave brains, and Sister Sarah's like, what did you say about the ghouls? What do they crave? And they're all faces are close, and it's just so fucking weird.
Yeah, she's giving her the eyes too. Yeah. It's really weird.
And then so you cut back to Harold showing back up at Junior's house and sees that their dad's grave has been dug up. And you cut right back to the loudest fucking Wilhelm scream of all time of Diane screaming. I don't know if it was something that happened with my TV or if it was in the movie, but it just the volume in this went up and it legitimately gave me a jump scare because I was like, what the fuck? Why is this so loud?
It knew this was where it was losing people because it's so fucking boring.
Which is ironic.
So it was all right, it's time to wake everyone up.
Shit is
they're
finally
you need
happening.
to pay attention now. It's legit.
So you hear Diane scream and you just see her dead laying in one of these pews. And Sarah is now gone. Russ says that they should lock Sarah in the crematorium because it's got the strongest door, and he runs off. You cut back to
that door with that tiny ass lock on it.
Yeah, that'll hold them back. You cut back to Junior's house, and Harold comes walking in and sees their dad duct taped to a chair covered in air fresheners.
And there's like CGI flies too.
Oh my god, the flies drive me crazy because they're also like the noise from them is extremely loud compared to everything else.
Yeah.
Junior gave his dad some of the fluid from the government bag that he calls life's blood. Harold now obviously believes Junior because he can see this zombie of their dad. Harold offers to help Junior with his problem for money, which
he literally said, he's like, this whole like back and forth between them again was like so funny, and he was like, okay, well, I'm gonna help you out, but I'm not gonna do it for free. I need to get something out of it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
And so like Junior's just like, well, there's Daddy's briefcase. He's got $30,000 in it. Harold is just like, that's not enough. And he's just like, so here's the plan. Like, maggots. We'll use maggots to clean out these bodies. And then it's just like, we should start doing like tissue harvesting. And he's like, a human body is worth $200,000 when divided up and sold, and we could replace the bones with PVC pipe. And Junior is just,
that was my favorite bit.
It's so good. Junior is like outraged and just yells at him about like he's not here to desecrate bodies, which like is kind of what he's been doing this whole time.
I mean, right?
Because he says at one point that like he's just been going in with a chainsaw and cutting up all of these bodies in the crematorium room, and Harold is like raving and like keeps just getting closer and closer, and eventually gets bit by his dad and just goes screaming and running out of the house. Runs straight into like the grave and trips and hits his head and falls into this open grave, and Junior comes out and buries him, quote unquote, alive. And that's the end of the only good part of this movie. This is also the scene we said earlier where it's just like this really awkward looking green screen of Harold in a grave that just looks weird.
Yeah, so I assume it was supposed to be like another 3D, but like depth, him down in the grave.
So Christy calls Junior and tells him about Aunt Lou. Junior is like, I'll be there in a minute, and comes back to the funeral home. They are sitting over Diane's body and just kind of discussing about she's gonna come back. Junior has to like kill her, tells Christy to leave, and then just shoots Diane, I guess, in the head because you don't ever see it. Christy, go ahead.
Really hoping for more, like, for her, because like after Sarah Palin like bites her, she doesn't even have like a wound. She's just like laying on the bench and she's got like some blood on her, and that's it. And then it's just like, oh, she's dead. And I was like, that was really lame.
Who knows? Maybe some of these characters are zombies or in the story that he tells later in the first movie. So Christy says they have to go get Russ, and Junior's just like, why bother? He's already dead if he's in the oven room. And eventually she like just is like, look, we have to go in there and like save him. So Junior gives Christy the daddy's broom handle gun.
Then they start calling him Russell for some reason.
Yeah, all of a sudden it just turns into Russell. And so they go into the oven room through the back that's got that gate on it. Just all of a sudden there's just like 30 zombies in there now, including Russ. Christy's just like, oh no, like there's Russell, and he's just like, that ain't Russell, that's just a corpse in a Russell suit. Sister Sarah is also in that room, and Junior just starts going wild on shooting zombies with this shotgun that I can't imagine has, like, shotguns are one of those things that you can only fire once at a time, right? Like,
sometimes twice.
So regardless, twice at most, and he's just like going off with this thing. And Christy is just like hesitating, and eventually has to shoot like one zombie, and then she shoots Sister Sarah. There is like no blood in any of these shots. At some point, this one zombie comes like walking up on Junior that he like starts hitting in the face with the butt of the shotgun. That this is, I guess, the scene you were talking about earlier, that like the zombie's head like turns around with the jaw knocked loose.
Yeah, and I also thought she kind of reminded me of like that really iconic like blonde girl from like the original Night of the Living
Oh,
Dead.
Barbara. Barb.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, she's kind of like a homage, but yeah, he like hits her and her head turns all the way around and her jaw like flies off, and I was like, but they kind of like linger on it, so I was like,
Yeah.
all right, this is the bread and butter of this movie right
He
here.
then hits it again, and the entire gun goes through its head, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Then you hear her yell, and Christy is being attacked by Bobby's half corpse that has somehow gotten its way untied off the wall. Junior like knocks it off but never kills it, and you just see it kind of like its spine like squirming like a tail.
Yeah.
Which is real weird.
He's like, Bobby, no.
Junior and Christy like escape, and for a minute as like you see her, she's like leaned against the cage and he hasn't come out yet, and I was like, oh, that cage is gonna be locked, but it's not. So he's just like, I'll take you back to the office and get you fixed up. They go back to the office, and he's like, here, drink this. And she's like, what is it? And he's like, it's one of those energy drinks you kids like. Says she needs it for her shock. She
Not suspicious at all.
Yeah. She's like, oh, so like a Red Bull or like a Monster Energy drink? And he's like, yeah, something like that.
And then she still doesn't want to drink it, and he's like, it'll make you a new woman, I promise.
Ugh.
You're special.
So,
And I was like, what?
She eventually drinks it and immediately realizes something is wrong and just starts like wincing, like she's like realized she's been poisoned or something, and he's just like, it's life's blood. He's like, I know you were special from the minute you got here, and it wasn't an accident that you came to me. And that he like goes to like leave her in the room, and that like when she comes back he'll take care of her. He leaves, and you kind of hear like her wincing noises or whatever stop, and then it's just Junior standing outside the funeral home looking at the cemetery, kind of smirking with a shovel, and just kind of goes walking off towards it, and end of movie.
Yeah, so like I don't understand the whole thing between like why is like he's killing her, I guess, so that she doesn't
I think
tell anyone what happened, but I don't understand.
No, I don't even think it's that. I think it's more of the same thing, like his dad and Bobby. Like I think he thinks that he can bring them back and control them somehow. But again, this is
like a zombie
like
wife.
all shit that we might understand if we saw like the first movie that like has got his explanation in it, like whatever story he tells.
I see.
Either way, this movie is dumb.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah.
Katie, you said you had some news.
I do. Did any of you? Well, this is what I wrote for like last week. Have either of you guys seen the trailer for the movie The Turning?
Nope.
So it's directed by, I might say her name wrong, Floria Sigmundi, who did like Handmaid's Tale. She did the Daredevil show. She did Hemlock Grove. She's done a bunch of music videos for like Marilyn Manson and David Bowie and The Cure and stuff. And the movie stars Finn Wolfhard. And it's basically just like another haunted house nanny movie, but the trailer's out now. It's been out for a little bit, and it looks really creepy. So, given that Daredevil is like the best show ever, I kind of think it might be pretty cool, and it looks creepy.
It's no Jessica Jones.
My other news is that there is, I don't know if either of you guys have ever heard of or played this game, but when I was younger, I used to play this game called Medieval. That was for the PlayStation 1. Came out in '98, and it's like a hack and slash adventure game where you play as this like knight skeleton guy, and it's like one of my favorite games and one of my favorite games I remember playing as a child. But they're actually remastering it and releasing it on the PS4, and it comes out this Friday, which will be the 25th.
Are games just movies now that like all they're doing is remaking old games?
Yes.
I mean,
remakes
pretty
or sequels.
much. Yeah, but to
hate
me, to me, it's like different because for a while all they were doing was like porting stuff, which is like fun, but sometimes when you go back and play them, the graphics are just like the graphics and the mechanics are really bad. So what I liked about I got the Crash Bandicoot, they like re-released them or whatever for the PS4 also, which I have a collection of. And like not only did they remaster the graphics, but they also made the game like sort of harder. So like in some instances it sort of is like a new game because you can't just like I don't know.
Because
And
you
then
hate.
yeah. The Crash remake was actually really frustrating. Like there's a few parts where at first I didn't know that they had made it harder and I was like there's no way that I have become this bad at games because I remember playing these games when I was younger and just like breezing through it and then I googled it and yeah, they made it harder. They like re-released Spyro also. Like I'm pretty sure that one's already out. But this one I'm really specifically excited for because I feel like they don't really make games like this anymore. So I recommend people check it out.
There you go. You want to make that your recommendation for the week?
Yes, because even though I'm gonna get it on Friday, and I'm assure you that it's amazing.
Kit, you have anything you want to like recommend this week?
Fuck.
Or I can go real quick, and then if you have something, you can just do it after mine. I'm recommending two things. I'm going to recommend the new Clipping album. There will be an addiction to blood or some shit like that. It's real good, real kind of. There's like a whole sort of like John Carpenter-y kind of influence track that's real good. It's like John Carpenter if he was into noise and hip hop, which I'm all about. And then I want to recommend the Ho Yeah podcast because I've been listening to it and watching King of the Hill almost nonstop for the last like week and a half. And
Yeah, I'm
it's
done with my rewatch of it
God,
too.
it's like
So
the best show.
it really
And
is.
the podcast is real fun, and like one of the last episodes they did is just like an hour of breaking down the fan theory that Bill is Bobby's dad, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, it's pretty good. Not that they necessarily need more listeners at the moment because they are blown up, but it's good. Listen to that. You got anything, Kit?
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a stupid week.
Blood Incantation
Halloween's coming
and
up.
long sleeves.
Listen to King Diamond.
There you go.
Listen to King Diamond and dress up like King Diamond for Halloween.
There you
Oh,
go. Do you have any idea? Like, I've been extremely. This is way off topic, but what is all of this shit with Euronymous coming back and people wanting to kill him?
Who is it? Necro Butcher? I don't know what member of fucking Mayhem he is. He did an interview and was saying like, well, I guess I'm ready to finally admit this, but I was actually on my way to murder Euronymous myself whenever Varg went over there and, murdered him before me.
Just waited 30 years to tell everybody.
Yeah. So now it's a whole thing. It's like, damn it. I was on my way to murder Euronymous too. Shit.
I've seen like so many tweets and I was just kind of like, I don't feel like looking into this.
I have two, but like still nothing you said makes sense to me. So I'm still confused.
All right. Next week's episode is a very unspooky Halloween crossover with the Worst Horror Podcast, where we did Face Off for I Hope You Suffer and Mom and Dad on the Worst Horror Podcast because Nick Cage.
I mean, if you Google pictures of John Travolta, it's pretty spooky.
Yeah, just look up John Travolta and the Fanatic. That's all you need to see because his haircut is the best. Yeah, so that'll be next week. You can follow us on Twitter at I Hope You Suffer, at Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. Go listen to Kit's other podcast, Riff Raff, about Mortal Kombat and sometimes metal. A lot of the time about animal penises.
Oh,
Usually.
an animal has a weird penis, they're going to talk about it.
You're damn right.
Also, follow Katie on Instagram at Werewolf Face for animal penises.
No. No animal penises.
Clown dongs.
No.
You could listen to my other podcast, Let Me Be Your Pot of Love, on podcast things, sometimes about animal penises.
Echidna dicks.
Yes.
Google echidna dicks, everyone.
Do not.
Be haunted.
Yeah. Watch Face Off, because it rules. I hope you suffer, but why?
But why?
Well, that's kind of jazzy.
Yeah.